Welcome to Stories Beneath Our Feet, and thank you for joining us today. I'm archaeologist Teresa Schoper. Fort Myers Beach only became a town in 1995, but did you know that people have lived here for over 2,000 years? While I don't have a time machine, what you're about to experience may be the next best thing. Imagine that you've traveled back in time to this island 1,400 years ago. This place was once home to a powerful society, the Calusa Indians. While this thriving village originally extended over 14 acres, today less than 3 acres remain. Modern canal digging and construction destroyed the rest. In the 1950s, former residents installed a swimming pool right where we're standing. Although that part of the mound was lost forever, this story has a happy ending. When we removed the pool, it revealed the cross-section of the mound that you can see in front of you. The town of Fort Myers Beach purchased this site in 2000, with assistance from Florida Communities Trust. Since then, a team of dedicated volunteers and researchers has worked to reveal and preserve the rich stories of this site. Similar studies continue at other archaeological sites. Today, you're taking part in a unique opportunity to learn about this story as it unfolds. Soon the lights will dim so that together we can explore the mound. The Calusa Indians built shell mounds by adding deposits of earth and shell on top of one another. Usually, the oldest deposit is at the bottom, while the newest is at the top. Together, these layered deposits are called stratification. How we excavate the mound determines what we learn. Picture a layer cake. If we slice vertically from top to bottom, we get a small piece of each layer. If we slice horizontally from side to side, we cut the top layer off to reveal the layer below. Many excavations are like the vertical slice. We sample each deposit. In other excavations, we uncover a large area of a single deposit, like the horizontal slice, though the layers in a mound aren't always perfectly flat, as you can see in the wall. Finding the age of each layer helps us understand how the mound changed over time. One method used to date deposits, radiocarbon dating, gives the age of a material, such as shell or charcoal. We assume that the age of the material is roughly the same as the date the layer was placed on the mound. Now let's look at the radiocarbon dates for this mound. Notice the red lights close to the bottom of the mound. Deposits below this line were laid down between 2,000 and 1,500 years ago. Layers between the yellow lights and red lights are the middle layers. These deposits were laid down between 1,500 and 1,400 years ago. The most recent occupation periods are the layers of deposits indicated by the yellow lights. Research indicates this mound was abandoned between 1,100 and 1,000 years ago. The thin earthen layer at the top of the mound is the highest ancient living surface. Radiocarbon dating has revealed a surprise. Shells in the layers indicated by the blue strands date from about 1,500 to 1,400 years ago. Interestingly, the shells in the higher layers, as shown by the yellow strands, are as much as 300 years older than the shells below them, but were deposited more recently. How could that happen? One likely explanation is that the Calusa were ancient recyclers. They took previously thrown away shell and reused it to add height to the mound. So the radiocarbon dates show the age of the discarded shell, but not when this part of the mound was built. Now let's focus on the yellow strands of lights once more. Notice that these layers angle upward to the surface and are shorter than the lower layers. We know the top of the mound was removed for the former swimming pool deck. It is easy to see from the upward slope of these areas that the original mound was much higher. Now let's look at an artifact, an object made by a person. This pipe was found here in a shallow pit of charcoal-stained beach sand, below the oldest deposit. The pipe's contents date to 1,400 years ago, but the oldest deposit is from 2,000 years ago and doesn't appear to be from a garbage pit. These out-of-order dates confirm that there is much more to the story of this mound than just slow garbage accumulation. While vertical excavations study change over time, horizontal excavations reveal where different activities took place at one time. We use them to create an overall picture of a specific time period. For example, we found an oyster roasting pit over here. Then in this area, we found post molds, stains from wood posts that would have supported a building. These stains are a kind of artifact called a feature that can only be seen in the ground. You can see them here in a circle, but if we tried to remove them, we would destroy them. The building may have been a house or a meeting place. According to its size, it probably held 6 to 8 people, and there is evidence for multiple buildings throughout this mound. It was probably a large village. This shows us that it's not just the objects we find, but the information around them, their context, that tells us what happened. To create a complete picture of Calusa history, we have to study both the vertical and horizontal views. This research requires multiple disciplines, from historical researchers and ethnobotanists to zooarchaeologists and anthropologists. Notice once more the thin earthen layers in the wall, highlighted by the LED lights. There is evidence of post molds from housing structures within some of these layers. Now look at the thicker deposits. They consist mostly of whole shells. The thin earthen layers were living surfaces with houses. They represent periods when generations of Calusa lived on the same mound surface. The thicker layers, on the other hand, added height to the mound. They were added more rapidly and represent times when mound building activity resumed. From these observations, we can picture the life of the mound over centuries, in alternating stages of building and living. Now let's look at a third kind of deposit. In these deposits, the shells are all similar in size, and most come from one kind of shellfish. Look closely at the shells found between the blue lights. These are mostly surf clams. They were all deposited at one time. Now turn your focus to the shells above the yellow lights. You can easily see that they are all similar in size and shape. These shells were fighting conchs. What could this mean? Think about Thanksgiving. Americans gather with family and friends to share a meal and commemorate the fall harvest, and afterwards they throw away tons of turkey bones. Likewise, the Calusa Indians may have eaten certain shellfish during communal feasts, perhaps to celebrate a new chief coming into power. After the meal, they added the shells to the mound as a memorial. Like building layers, these feasts created elevated areas for households of nobles. In fact, the 2 tallest living areas on this mound were built just before it was abandoned. This change was part of a larger transformation in the Calusa heartland. 2,000 years ago, construction began on this mound. By 1,400 years ago, it was a main village of the community in Estero Bay. Beginning about 1,000 years ago, people moved from scattered communities like Mound House into just a few larger sites. Living areas of certain families were built higher and higher, representing a growing division between commoners and nobles. When the Spanish arrived at the city-like site of Mound Key in the 1500s, they recognized it as the capital of a powerful civilization with an extensive trade network and vibrant social life. Understanding ancient peoples, like the Calusa Indians, takes lifetimes. We're just at the beginning, so your support for preservation and research at archaeological sites is key to uncovering the Calusa story. Let's return to the Mound House site of 1,400 years ago. Imagine listening to a grandmother tell stories as the cacique or chief chats with his advisors. We may not have a time machine, but through preservation and research, we can glimpse life from the past. Volunteers are essential to this operation. If you would like to get involved, please visit the house. In a short while, your guide will escort you out of the room so that others can come in and enjoy. Thank you for visiting.